Israel and Hamas reaching a deal to release all of the hostages in Gaza. President Trump saying he expects the hostages to be released probably on Monday. Joining us now is Danny Danon, Israel's ambassador to the United Nations. Ambassador Danon, I'd love to get your sense of what the mood is like in Israel and why it has taken up to this point that really got this deal together and really changed the tone.
Good morning, Lisa. Thank you for having me. Indeed, today in Israel, all around the world, we are very hopeful. We have been waiting for this day for 2 years. We prayed for the release of the hostages, and we were very determined. And we said it very clear, this war will not end until we get all the hostages out. And I think that determination brought us to the position where we are today. And we want to thank President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu for their leadership. It's only the beginning. It's only the first stage. The government will decide in 2 hours about releasing terrorists, which is painful for us. And then we will start to see, hopefully, the hostages coming back home. That's the most important phase, but it's not the last one. We have to speak about the future, the demilitarization of Gaza, ensuring that Hamas will not be part of the process over there. So it is a long way ahead, but we are very hopeful and happy today to think about the hostages finally reuniting with their families.
Ambassador, is it your understanding that President Trump is going to travel to Israel and address the Knesset?
Yes, we expect President Trump to arrive to Israel late Saturday night or Sunday. It will be his first visit during this term. And I think for him it's very important. He was very involved with the issue of the hostages. He met with the families. He asked about their medical conditions. And we have to give him credit for that. And it speaks volume that he comes to the region. And we have to be thankful not only to his leadership, but the fact that now we can speak about expanding the Abraham Accords. After we will finish this war, Israel is a peaceful nation. We want to build bridges. We want to sign more peace accords. And I think today, when President Trump is in the White House and Netanyahu in Jerusalem, we can start exploring the opportunities.
When it comes to the first phase of this peace agreement, where exactly do you see the line where the IDF will withdraw to?
Well, that was negotiated. We made some compromises over that issue on the last days. Basically, we're going to pull out from the cities. We have no intention to stay in Gaza. We don't want to be there. And we intend to pull out completely. But it will happen gradually when we will see that actually Hamas is giving away its grip of the Gazans and allowing international forces to take over. We care about our security. That was the reason we moved into Gaza.
You're the ambassador to the United Nations, where a number of world leaders walked out when Netanyahu was speaking just a couple of weeks ago. I'm just wondering how difficult you think it's going to be to repair Israel's relationship with the rest of the world, given some of the animosity that we've seen of late.
I think we will do it very fast. We have strong relationship with so many countries. Many of them, made mistakes. We saw the difference between politics and diplomacy. Some leaders like Macron and others came to the UN for the show, for the declarations. President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu dealt with hardcore diplomacy and brought results. So I'm sure that very fast we will be able to work with those countries, continue to contribute to developing countries. We have a lot to do, a lot to share. We paid a heavy price, and I have to mention the price we paid. More than 1,000 soldiers died since October 7th. It's painful for us, but we are strong and we prevailed.
Ambassador, I'm also wondering about whether there have been any discussions to restart talks to normalize relations between Israel and some of your other Middle East neighbors. I'm thinking of Saudi Arabia, where that was clearly a discussion before this, but others as well. Is that already on the table, or is that a long ways off?
We definitely expect it to happen. First we have to stabilize the situation to make sure that actually Hamas is out of the game. It's not a given. We have to make sure that they are out of the game. And I think it will be the interest of Israel, the US, and many moderate countries to move forward. And it's important to mention that, the Abraham Accords countries sticks to the peace agreements we signed with them, even though it was challenging and difficult for them during the war, and we appreciate that.
Are you concerned with a fragile relationship with Egypt? Earlier in September, we had President el-Sisi talk about the fact that Israel was a, quote, enemy. And we've seen a lot of acrimonious statements and individuals saying it's almost the closest these two countries have been to war since 1979.
No, we have a strong bond with the Egyptian government. You know, we know that during the war, it wasn't, they had domestic politics, some of those leaders, and they had to play the game. But we collaborate with the Egyptians, and I think now we should aim to expanding peace. That's our goal in the future.
Well, when it comes to Egypt and Qatar and United Arab Emirates, which you already have a peace agreement with, how do you see these countries working with Israel when it comes to phase 2 and 3 of rebuilding Gaza?
Well, I think it will be more than that. It will require the involvement of more countries, and I cannot name names, but we are talking with major players that are willing to contribute to the efforts for the reconstruction of Gaza. And it's not only physical reconstruction. We have to build the environment, a society that will not glorify terrorism. You know, for 20 years, Hamas took the people of Gaza hostage. And I think now they have the option to build a better future. And they have to be responsible about it and not allow radicals to take over Gaza again.